Entering the Mayo experience.
That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Vegas 11. Woodley versus Covington, or Covington versus Woodley. I guess Covington's ranked higher, so it would be that.
Oh, is that how they do the naming conventions? Who's ranked higher?
Cody Saftic here. Matt Best on the sticks. Breaking down a 14-fight card. I don't know.
As of this moment.
Who
UFC
knows?
finally learned their lesson, though.
If this main card can stay intact, it's a nice little offering. Things get a little dicey as we go a little deeper down the card on this one. We have people here that's just like, I don't know if you really belong, but
Time to prove it.
they're willing to accept 12K and fight for our enjoyment. So who am I to judge?
24 if you win.
24 if you win. You gotta.
Plus your Reebok money, another 2,500 on top of that.
Plus an opportunity to step it up to 15 and 15 probably on your next contract. Good times. Yeah. Should we just get into the action here? Welcome to the new Mayo Media. Or wait, no, this is on our own feed now?
Yeah, well, there you go. I don't think we have any housekeeping. Pat obviously not in-house today, but...
Pat usually does all the housekeeping.
Yeah, this is a fun fight.
Get into the housekeeping. I didn't make any notes on my sheet about any housekeeping. So I guess we just talk about fights.
Well, I guess that's what we do. We're not giving away DK bucks and all of that jazz. We don't have any housekeeping in that regard. So, yeah. Let's just get into the fights and make some money.
Absolutely. We got Colby Covington taking on Tyron Woodley in the main event of the evening. Colby Covington, minus 345 favorite. Tyron Woodley, plus 285. Cody, take it away.
Well, yeah. I think this is the fight that a lot of us have been wanting to see for a long time. The problem is you could have got a good price tag on Colby Covington anytime in the last 2 years. Tyron Woodley's just got this aura about him. Now, I'm not understanding what it is, and I'll be the first one to admit I've pretty much faded Tyron Woodley in every fight since the Damian Mayo fight. But there's just not a whole lot of body of work there. I mean, we go back to him winning the title, right? He was given a title shot from Dana White off a split decision win over Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum missed weight, came in at a 180 in a welterweight fight, spent the night in hospital because his body was shutting down, and still fought Woodley to a split decision. That's what got him the title fight. Then he one-punches Robbie Lawler. It's a cool KO. It's nice for the highlight reel. Woodley's now a bona fide UFC welterweight champion, and he gets the first Stephen Thompson fight. Now I'm on Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson defeats Tyron Woodley 3-2. The problem is Stephen Thompson got dropped pretty hard. Stephen Thompson gets a 10-8 against him. As a result, fight's a draw. But I think Stephen Thompson proves to be the superior fighter. Again, I'm not sold on Tyron Woodley. Woodley's got all the stats on paper that make him just seem invincible. What a fighter this guy is. He's so unbelievably athletic. He's super fast. He's got that big right hand, massive amount of power. Collegiate wrestler. How are you going to take this guy down? People never talk about his cardio. I'm big on no cardio. But all the same, the guy's such a good wrestler. He's got such a big right hand. How do you defeat him? Well, Stephen Thompson should have defeated him, but he gets the rematch, and the second time around, it is the worst fight, Paul, you've ever seen. Even watching it back, it's like, man, just skip over it. Well, we're not even taking any lessons out of this one because Colby does not fight like Stephen Thompson. But the lesson there was I still believe he lost that fight. As terrible as it was, I didn't think he won. He beats Damian Mayo, sure. Damian Mayo goes 0 for 21 on takedown attempts. Not a very good fight. Goes the 5-round distance. The Till fight, I get it. And then since then, that's when we've seen the guy that I always believed he was. When you can put a pace on this guy, you can wrestle a little bit. You don't even have to have better striking. You just have to have more output, more volume, more pressure. He gets very gun shy. Now, maybe that's a result of him having all that power. Maybe that's a result of him knowing, oh man, I only got to land one time to make it clean and drop the guy. Just like that Darren Till fight. Nothing happens in the first round versus Darren Till. And in the second round, he drops him and ends up submitting him.
Till just can't grapple.
Yeah, but he just stays so gun shy that coming into the Usman fight, Usman's the underdog. And I can't figure it out why. And yeah, he's squeaking by some of these other guys, but he's squeaking by Damian Mayo, and he's squeaking by Darren Till, and he's squeaking by Thompson. Usman is next level contender. Usman's dog money. I'm all over Usman, and he routs him 50-45, wins all 5 rounds, wins all 5 rounds clean. And then the audacity on these people, they give him dog money on Gilbert Burns against Tyron Woodley. Like, he's finally showing the guy he is, and he's 38, he's 39 years old.
Yeah,
38. He's finally showing that he doesn't have the cardio to push a tremendous pace, especially over the course of 5 rounds. So he doesn't let his hands go. His wrestling, he's not trying to take you down because that would cost a lot of energy. It's taxing on the body. And as far as his takedown defense goes, it's fine, sure. But when you're getting pressured against the cage and you're eventually getting tripped to the ground, just like in the Usman fight, it just looks bad in the judge's eyes. Now, again, Colby's been talking about this fight for the last 2 years. And if they had booked Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley when Woodley was the champ and Covington wanted to fight him then, and it made tons of sense, we would have got a dog price on Covington. But Tyron Woodley wanted to fight Conor McGregor. Tyron Woodley wanted to fight Nate Diaz.
Ended up fighting none of them.
Yeah, but he just waited around for this money fight, and then eventually he had to take on Usman, who was the best guy in the division.
It's funny
and
because
faltered.
contender Tyron Woodley was just like, give me a fight anytime, anywhere. And he went on like that knockout run. And then once he got that strap, it was just like, hold up.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm waiting for only certain opponents that will not take the fight.
Right, but imagine you're him as well, right? So you beat Robbie Lawler, now you're the champ. The first Thompson fight, you don't get paid a whole lot, and it's a draw. Okay, so now the second Thompson fight, it's a real stinker, and you get paid, but what do you get paid? $250,000 for the second Thompson fight? Now you get the Damian Maia fight. Wow, what a stinker that is. Now you're not in the UFC's favor. You just had 2 stinkers against Damian Maia especially, he's in his 40s at this point. Bad look. The Darren Till fight, he gets paid for this one. And now it's like, oh man, I'm 37 years old and I've been remotely paid for maybe my last 3 fights, not even $1 million combined. I want to fight Conor McGregor. I want to fight Nate Diaz because those are easier fights for me and I could get a big payday. At least with Conor McGregor, he can't wrestle at all. So Tyron Woodley does have that path to victory. So now anyways, how does he match up against Colby Covington? Well, his wrestling's just not on the table here because he's not going to go out there and take down Colby Covington. And he's certainly not going to go and take out Colby Covington multiple times.
No, he's got to knock him out.
He's got to knock him out.
And like that's the funny
Colby's
thing is
shown a hell of it. Actually, you know what? His best path to victory, in my opinion, is shock him with a shot and then hit that guillotine choke. Because he does got a good guillotine. He does got a hell of a squeeze on him. And it'd be one of those, we've seen Colby get caught in a guillotine before against Worley Alves back in the day. If you just grab a hold of that neck and yank it in the first round, maybe he submits him with the guillotine. But outside of that, I think Colby just pressures him, breaks him down. As far as striking goes, listen, Tyron's technique's nice. He's tight, he's accurate. But just like in the Gilbert Burns fight, he's just sitting there waiting
He
for
likes
his hands
waiting
to go.
against the cage. I think, yeah, and
waits
honestly,
too
it's
long.
like Kamaru Usman, then Gilbert Burns. Like Kamaru Usman set the template. Gilbert Burns literally emulated the exact game plan.
And
Colby
Colby's
Covington
more
fights
than
the
capable.
exact same game plan, a little bit less power than both of those guys, of course, but
Good
probably higher volume.
Good volume, good pressure, good cardio.
He's got a good chin. Obviously, he got knocked out against Usman in his last fight. Like, damn near broke his jaw if he didn't. He's taken off like 9 months since then. I mean, I expect to see a lot of Tyron Woodley up against the cage, waiting for his big shot. He's going to have to land that big shot. I think Colby Covington wins very, very decisively in this spot. Tyron's it's the same matchup, like 3 times in a row, and he can't win this matchup.
Well, right, and I've gone on record to say that I would favor a lot of guys at the welterweight division over Tyron Woodley. I think guys like Jeff Neal, Santiago Ponzinibbio, and I even said Michael Chiesa, a big welterweight that can push a pace on him, is going to have trouble because, again, he has to knock you out in the first round or 2 or he's going to fatigue. And Tyron Woodley's not the kind of guy that gets booked in co-main events or main card fights. He's a headliner. Especially in 2020 when they're so shy for headliners, he's going to headline. He's going to have to fight 5 rounds. And I just don't think at this stage he can do that anymore. So he has to rely on that quick finish. And again, talking about Colby Covington, he got nailed with some massive shots by Kamaru Usman, who's not a known power puncher, certainly doesn't hit to the level of Tyron Woodley. But to get your jaw dislocated like that and then to come out in the 5th round and swing, and the end is very, very hard to watch. But again, if you are a hardcore right-wing Republican, you can argue, fucking early stoppage, man. Colby still wanted to keep fighting. Just depends on your outlook and your perspective on things. But I think Colby Covington is the man in that regard. And honestly, I've been team Colby Covington from the beginning. Not because of the antics, just because here's a guy that goes out there and wins fights the way we like. He just keeps going, he grinds. His striking, not that good. But he just puts a pace on you. And then over the years, now his striking, not that bad. Still not that good.
He doesn't have stinging power. He's not going to hurt Tyron, but if he can back him up against the cage, not get bombed on the first 2 rounds, like Tyron's not going to have. He can't keep that pace. I think we've seen, but he's very, very durable. He usually gets to decision. Hasn't been knocked out since Nate Marquardt way, way, way back in Strikeforce, I believe.
Tyron Woodley.
Yeah.
No, he's durable. And I would think that Colby Covington, it goes 5 rounds if Colby Covington's going to win. One thing about Woodley coming out and saying that this is such a grudge match and it's so heated that maybe he does go out guns a-blazing. This could very well be his last fight. As we mentioned, he's nearing 40. He's on a 2-fight losing streak currently. If he loses to his arch nemesis rival, Colby Covington, and he's on a 3-fight losing streak at this stage in his career, it could very well be last for him. So if he goes out guns a-blazing, that is his best path to victory. Because again, Colby Covington, remember his fight with Damian Maia? Where it's like the first round, Damian Maia busts him up, hits him, busts him up, striking. You know, Colby's hittable. But he almost fights to his extent. I know a lot of people would disagree. But he's got a similar striking style to like the Diaz brothers. He stalks you, stands right in front of you, and you hit him a few times, but he just keeps pouring it on. It's not the most technical, it's not the most powerful, but it just adds up on you. So maybe he can break T. Wood late and force a late stoppage if T. Wood kind of blows his gas tank early trying to get that early finish. But yeah, I got Colby Covington. I know it's not the popular opinion, but 345 really isn't a bad price tag. There's a lot of other guys that I would favor over Tyron Woodley. And 345 is an indication that people just don't like Colby Covington. They don't want to bet Colby Covington. They're hoping he gets knocked out. But the truth is the truth, and the truth is he's the superior fighter in the spot. At this stage in both guys' careers, the way they match up stylistically, it's Covington, 345. Maybe you chase it by decision, like you're saying. That seems logical. T. Wood still is very durable.
I could see a late finish though.
But I could also see a late finish, and it's just like
actually I saw one book had 17-1 on rounds 4 and 5, and I was just like, I haven't touched it yet, but I was thinking
Worth a
about
look,
it.
certainly.
I mean, Colby doesn't really finish, and Woodley doesn't get finished, so it's kind of tough. But I mean, this would be 3 straight losses. Like, Woodley needs this fight to just have any sort of title relevancy. He's not going to get a title shot off of this type of fight, but he needs to win this one. He loses this one, there's no chance he ever gets a title shot ever again at 38 years old.
Yeah, for sure. And the last thing to sprinkle on there is that maybe this is a fight that you do wait to watch the weigh-ins, because one thing I really did notice is if you compare Woodley at the Darren Till weigh-in or the Usman weigh-in, compare either of those weigh-ins to Burns, he's mad deflated. Like, he's lost a lot of mass on him. He just doesn't look like that ripped up, shredded Woodley that we've come to know over the years. And I'm not saying it's anything performance enhancer related. I'm saying it's everything later on. 38. He's got his show on TMZ. He's got a commentating gig for the UFC. He's already won a world title. It's hard. He's had injuries. It's hard to get up in the morning and push that same kind of pace. Whereas Covington, this is his dream still. He hasn't attained the real UFC welterweight crown. He had it was the interim title, but you want to be the man, right? He's got to beat Usman, and to beat Usman, he's got to go out there and thrash Woodley. So one guy's stock's rising, and one guy, in my opinion, his stock's been plummeting since 2017. So yeah, I think we both agree with Colby Covington.
Yes, sir. We got Nico Price taking on Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Nico Price minus 155. Donald Cerrone plus 135. Donald Cerrone has the advantage, honestly, in terms of skill set in just about everything in this fight. The one thing that he really lacks, I think at this point in his career, is the durability. The one thing Nico Price has, and we've talked about it a million times, is the death touch. I feel like Donald Cerrone is going to look good. He's going to look good for the first couple minutes in this fight. He's going to be landing his strikes, much more technical striker, and then he's going to get clipped, and it's going to be all she wrote. Like, that's what happens in Nico Price fights. I haven't went to the window and laid any action on it. Like, Cerrone is, much more skilled, much more refined, much more experienced in every little aspect of the fight game. But it only takes one from Nico. And he could be from bottom, we've seen. He can be from bottom, just knock you out from below.
Basically any position where his hand connects with your face, it's a very hairy prospect. And with Donald Cerrone, certainly another fighter that we'll talk about getting to the later stages of his career, you just don't know if he can kind of take that damage. Donald Cerrone has dealt, as much of a cleaner striker as he is, and I agree 100% with your assessment, he could really go out there and put a clinic on Nico Price. But if he doesn't finish Nico Price, then this is a fist fight. Nico Price at any point could land. Now, I hate betting guys just on the prospect of, man, they could land that shot. But here's one thing with Donald Cerrone. His career's gone through stages, where he's a title contender and then he seems to be washed. And then he'll get himself back into contention and then he seems washed again. But you look at his run, and more specifically his last 2 wins, right? Ali Quinta and Alex Hernandez. Ali Quinta has since gone on to go 0-1 in the UFC. Alex Hernandez has since gone, he robbed Trinaldo and then got pieced up by Drew Dober. So he's gone 1-1 with that robbery win. And he had that win over Mike Perry, whose life has kind of just spun out in turmoil and doesn't really seem a contender. So at the time, he's smoking young prospect Alex Hernandez, sick. Hernandez never really got to where we thought he was. Smokes Ally Quinta, sick. Ally Quinta really did have one foot out the door with the real estate thing and just, unmotivated. But more importantly, both those fights that are 155 pounds. Whereas
170, big problem here.
Yeah, because Donald Cerrone deals with physicality, right? That's one thing that kind of always gets him. Even though he's 6'1" and he is 1 inch taller than Nico Price, he just doesn't have the same frame. To that extent, he has a 73-inch reach, and that's dealt with him really well over the past because he's got a good jab, so he can stay rangy on the outside, use that classic Muay Thai. Nico Price has a 76-inch reach, freakishly long arms. He's going to touch up Donald Cerrone. Now, Donald Cerrone has the wrestling advantage as well, so why not take Nico Price to the ground? Well, that's what becomes more difficult at 170 pounds, because now it's just going to be more difficult to take down Nico Price, who, again, is at American Top Team, trains with all the best guys. I don't know for sure that he's been in camp with Colby Covington or Tyron Woodley, whoever's at ATT, but I just mean he's got a plethora of
Not
bodies.
Colby Covington. He's moved on to his own camp.
Right. But it's just a plethora of bodies that he can work with, in the wrestling room to get ready for Donald Cerrone's shots. As far as Donald Cerrone getting the fight to the ground, Donald Cerrone could submit him. I mean, I guess we saw Vicente Luque submit him once upon a time. But Nico Price has just been making those improvements. He's still only 30 years old. He's just kind of a bit of a wild man. He's green in his own ways. He's wild in there. But he gets away with it because as soon as one of those wild strikes does land, it just causes a significant amount of damage. As much as I think that I would like to place an underdog bet on Donald Cerrone because he is the more technically savvy guy, we've been seeing these underdog veteran guys, pull out all the stops and pull off the victory. But that being said, I look back to the 4-fight losing streak, and he's fighting the best guys in the world. Justin Gaethje, the number 1 contender to Khabib's crown.
Yep.
Tony Ferguson, the legitimate number 2 guy to Khabib's crown. Conor McGregor, you would rank him in the top 5, but again, it's Conor fucking McGregor. Anthony Pettis is a former champion, arguably did win that fight against Anthony Pettis. But none of those guys have the size of Nico Price. It's just coming down to size, not skill, right? But Gaethje's a 55er.
Gaethje's
Ferguson's
got the
a
power,
55er.
and we saw what happened.
Connor's a 55er, but they fought at 170. Anthony Pettis is a 55er, but they fought at 170. You have this idea, this perception that Donald Cerrone will be fine at 170, but even just look back
He
at
never fights actual welterweights when he fights at welterweight.
there's no world that exists that Nico Price makes 155 pounds. It just doesn't exist. And likewise, remember when Donald Cerrone fought Darren Till? Cerrone's the favorite over Darren Till. And Darren Till doesn't throw a whole lot of strikes. He's just quite simply a big fucking dude. And it's like that's enough because he can stand his ground and return fire. And then when he returns fire, Cerrone just, again, he's had a lifetime of damage in just all of his career highlight reel and his fight of the nights and all of these performances and fighting multiple times in the same calendar year for our enjoyment. Eventually, it's kind of worn down to him. So I just think that size is going to matter. Now, that being said, I wouldn't bet Donald Cerrone just on the basis of, well, he's the more technical guy, but, he might be shot and he might be disinterested, and I don't really know. And I don't want to bet Nico Price just on the basis of, well, he's just the bigger guy. He's eventually going to land the death touch. So, honestly, I think this fight's a bit of a pass. There's 14 spots on the card. There's definitely better ones. Obviously,
you don't have to force it.
No, it's a fun fight. It could be fight of the night. It's the co-main event. Everybody's going to have a lot of interest in it. There's a field that you want some money on it. But Cerrone is a superior fighter. I just think that at this stage in the game, it's Nico Price's for the taking. Again, this is not a card of prime versus prime. This is a card of who's in it and what's happening right now. And as much as Nico Price has been knocked out and he has been submitted, the guys that have knocked him out, Jeff Neal, Abdul Razak Al Hassan, Vicente Luque, they're all at different. Abdul Razak Hassan not that good, but the power on him, and Jeff Neal very good, and the power on him, and Vicente Luque, it's like he can throw 120 significant strikes, and they're all significant. Like it's just like a pace setting thing. Cerrone doesn't pose those same problems, so Nico probably gets away with it the way he's gotten away with some of his other fights, but. I don't know. It's a pass. It's a pass. A guy that wins with an up kick off his back, and the guy that wins with a hammer fist off his back, and those are just weird spots, man. He's going to be in a lot of bad spots in this fight, and you hate to be yelling at your TV screen like, man, just do something, do something.
I think he's an interesting DraftKings play. I don't think you have to bet.
Certainly
this
a good DraftKings play because his upside is first round KO,
Exactly.
right? So, yeah, I feel you there.
We have Khamzat Chimaev taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Explain to me. I mean, this fight opened at -600. Khamzat Chimaev This is like 85% win probability. Now it's down towards 75%. So people are liking themselves a little taste of Gerald Meerschaert here. And it seems like across all the markets that anytime it drops a little bit, there's some action coming on the other side. It seems to be a very, very heavily bet fight. I mean, I know Meerschaert, for one, he's got one knockout in the UFC. It's a body kick to Eric Spicely. So now we're into a situation where he's got to get a submission, I think. And against these guys with, I know that he's from Chechnya, or not Dagestan.
Chechnya?
Is it Chechnya that he's from?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because they're repping him hard.
Yeah. All right. So the guys from that region with that wrestling background, I mean, these guys are not going to get submitted from like.
Wow, the triangles. I'm looking at triangles.
I just don't understand why people are. Maybe this is like a whole like. They knew that the line opened too much. Maybe this is a play where they're like arbing.
No, they're trying to fade Chimaev.
Maybe I'm thinking they're betting both sides because like this doesn't make any sense to me. I know.
There's only two possible answers.
Chimaev has fought like the absolute bottom of the barrel in terms of competition, but he landed 198 strikes and only absorbed 8.
Yeah, against guys that couldn't do nothing against him. John Phillips just cannot grapple. Simple fact, can't grapple. Riz McKee can grapple. Small welterweight taking on Chimaev coming down from 185. It was just a bad matchup for him. Meerschaert, big big welterweight, and got some grappling chops on him. And people just maybe not sold on Chimaev. But yeah, I don't see it personally. I think that Chimaev is.
I think we can just keep this on the feet and probably win it there as well.
There's one thing we need to address: potential greasy
Gerald
theory.
doesn't hurt people on the feet. You go through all of his fights.
Wow, the Deron Wynn fight, he looked good, but it was like he pushed the pace on Deron.
Deron Wynn's like 5'2" and fights at middleweight.
He's not that tall, is he?
Exactly. His arms are so small. Like there's massive advantages for him there. Hamzat Chimaev is not a small welterweight. He's actually not a small middleweight. The guy's monstrous at welterweight. Gerald Meerschaert is 6'2". Hamzat is 6'1".
Yeah. No, yeah.
They're basically the same
height.
size. Gerald is a little bit thicker, of course, but honestly, I think the people saying that there's like a big size issue for Hamzat here, it's like I don't think he's going to be all that undersized. Well, I'll watch the weigh-ins. I've already got some action on this before this line moves. I parlayed him in Covington. The prices are around the same right now.
So
and I laid a hammer on.
So to be honest with you, I was in the same position because it opened at like 6-1, and I was like, fuck, it is what it is.
It's gonna get. I actually didn't even look at it for like a day, and I thought it was gonna get away from me. Yeah, he was. I think it was Covington was minus 345 on my ticket, and Chimaev was minus 350 on the ticket. It's like a 1,000 pays.
No, listen, 100%. I thought the same thing. As soon as it dropped, I was like, "Whoop! Now the money's time to get in." The only thing I could think about at the time was like, unless some Russian backer was like, "Now's the time, right? Undefeated. Let's lose one to Meerschaert as a big underdog," and that's what made the. But then going online, there's just a lot of people that are publicly backing Gerald Meerschaert. They think that he's got the submission savvy, I guess. He's got the general ringship, I suppose. Now, when you think about it, right, it's not the size difference in the fight. It's the size of the record difference. You have Chimaev that has 8 professional fights versus Gerald Meerschaert, who has 44 professional fights. And, Meerschaert, even though he's, again, starting to get a little bit older, he makes improvements fight to fight. He gives a better version of himself. Now, the Ian Heinisch fight is a bit of an outlier because Meerschaert showed off a pretty good chin up until that point of his career, but just like got clubbed by Ian Heinisch right off the top, and it was just like folds to the ground. Coming to this matchup, he's got some supreme confidence in himself. But I'm sold on Chimaev. I mean, he fights the exact way that you would want him to fight. I think he's got 2 avenues to victory here. A, he takes avenue A that we all hope he does. Take him down, smash. Done. Chimaev could definitely do it. Stay out of the triangle. Just stay out of harm's way. Don't even bother passing guard. Well, actually, get to half guard. Half guard would be the best place to hang out. and just smash it. But there's no submissions from there, realistically.
Grab his other arm, do the smash.
Yeah, exactly.
The
Especially
Dagestani,
just lock him
tie-up
up
or
against the
whatever
cage.
they
Yeah, Dagestani handcuff him, get him up against it. It'd be the Chechnyan handcuff in this case, but
Chechen.
just put him up against the cage and smash away at this guy. And not only is just a lot of these Chechnyan guys, Dagestani guys, they're so good in the wrestling department, in the sambo department. Because think about I mentioned this the other day, but think about just like a good, a high school wrestling team. You go to high school, you show up in the gymnasium, and there's, you're what? You can start wrestling in grade 8, let's say. You show up, you're already 14 years old. There's 30 kids in the gymnasium, Paul. You realistically need to maybe beat 1 or 2 of them to get the starting spot on the high school wrestling team. And you wrestle for 4 years, and then you go to college. Some other kids. Now, these Dagestani kids, these Chechen kids, they're in a room with like 300-400 kids, man. And the only way you're getting a sponsorship, the only way you're getting out of here, the only way that you're going to hopefully provide for your family is if you're the top guy. And you just grind. Not only does he have that, where he has all that lifetime of grind, that mentality, that ability to just keep going, that what he's showing off, is that he was one of the guys that got out and went to Sweden and just really shored up his striking skills. And there lies his second path to victory. I think he could honestly keep this fight standing and knock out Jared Meerschaert. I honestly do believe it. I think Meerschaert doesn't wear a shot particularly well, and I think that Chimaev's got he's got some good power. There's videos of him online in his regional showing career where he's getting the TKO over guys, where he shows some decent striking. But beyond that, I mean, there's videos of him training at All-Stars Gym where he floors Alexander Gustafsson with a body kick. It's like, man, this guy's a scary talent. 26, getting better. I talk about Jared Meerschaert's confidence. This kid's confident. And everybody's behind him. Everybody's riding him. And whereas he's not one of these Chase Hoopers, he's not a Sage Northcutt. He's not one of these guys that's like, yeah, man, this guy looks sick. Fucking who lost the other day? Bozo that won't accept it. Sean O'Malley. You know what I mean? This guy's the real deal, man. And now I know it was Reese McKee. I know it was John Phillips.
But he made them look like they didn't belong in the same
exactly what a man of that caliber would do to them. Now, if Jared Meerschaert fought John Phillips, he might get knocked the fuck out. But he would probably take him down and submit him. It could be a dicey fight. If he took on Reese McKee, it goes a few rounds. It's not just complete 10-7 domination. Holy shit, what the hell is happening right here? It's different. So I am all over Chimaev. But I did have a dream last night. So I'm thinking all last night. That's probably why I had the dream.
There's a
How can he
theory
lose?
coming in here.
How can he lose this fight? Can't fucking figure it out. Then I'm sleeping, lying in my bed.
He's been told to take a
Chimaev.
dive.
No, Chimaev. No. And it comes to me, okay? Imagine he is just putting a licking on Jared Meerschaert. And then, boom, a sick knee to the body. Meerschaert falls over. Chris Tognoni runs in and says, whoa, shot to the groin. Gives Meerschaert fucking 5 minutes to recover. Chimaev goes back to smash, and the son of a bitch pulls off a Kimura. Outside of that, I don't really see Jared Meerschaert winning this fight. So I'm on Team Chimaev and definitely got him parlayed with Colby Covington, and we'll get back to the other parlay piece I got him with. But yeah, I like some Chimaev. I am on the train.
We got Johnny Walker taking on Ryan, a Superman Spann. Walker minus 125, Spann plus 105. What's your take here?
Okay, so this is another greasy one. I love fading Johnny Walker, kind of my thing. Now, it doesn't always work out for you because he's had 5 fights in the UFC. I've actually gone 3-2, picked him 1 single time. He's just so volatile, and I know that people like him because of the quick finishes, but there's not a whole lot of substance behind him after those quick finishes. This goes back to his debut. So his debut, he fights Khalil Roundtree. I did fade him in that fight. And wow, what a nasty elbow early in the first round. Top was over Khalil Roundtree. Nice win for him. Khalil didn't really go on to anything beyond that, but nice win for Johnny Walker. And he's still young, too. The Justin Ledet fight. Justin Ledet, non-contender. Again, never went to augment to anything after this. But it's a sweet little spinning back fist. Man, Johnny Walker, love it. The guy's long, he's agile, he's athletic, he's explosive. He fights Meerschaert Cherkinov. Again, I fade him here as well. So I'm 1-1 at this point. Losing the Meerschaert Cherkinov. I think Cherkinov is just going to take him down. He's a way better grappler. And holy shit, Paul, a flying knee in under a minute stiffens up Meerschaert Cherkinov. And now everybody and their mother is crying for this guy to fight John Jones. Like they're thinking, holy shit, man, this guy can just land on anybody. Mm-hmm. But it's like, man, if you watch tape on him previous to this stuff, it's like when he gets caught on the ground, his grappling's not all that good. His cardio is not all that good. And his technical striking, his fundamentals are awful.
Yeah.
But he's really explosive, and he's really long, and he's really rangy, and he could just connect on you with that magical move. Now, again, I fade him in the Corey Anderson fight. And Corey Anderson, of all people, boxes the shit out of him and knocks him out with his hands. I thought he was just going to wrestle Falco, to be honest. But knocks him out with his hands. Okay, there we go. You know why? Because Corey Anderson, not a great striker, but good fundamentals. That's all it takes to beat this man. And then going into the Nikita Krylov fight, you remember, I put a shoey bet on the line here. Krylov's underdog, and it's just like, man, he's just way more fundamentally sound, and he's got a grappling game. He's got a takedown game. And again, he beats Johnny Walker. Now, Ryan Spann can grapple. Ryan Spann can strike. Ryan Spann's got better fundamentals. Ryan Spann's equally a long guy that can use those same weapons. The one thing is, Ryan Spann is way susceptible to crazy Johnny Walker shit. Yep. We've seen him on Contender Series get folded up in 15 seconds by those Travis Brown-type elbows. We've seen him earlier in his career again, knocked out less than a minute, just the shot that lands. He's fought at 185 throughout his career. He's fought at 205. He's not exactly the biggest 205er going, whereas Johnny Walker, comfortably makes 205, but is just, a long, freakish guy. He's got that kind of size, and I wouldn't rule it out that a back fist lands, a spinning back fist, or a flying knee lands, or some type of whack-ass move lands. And I wouldn't rule it out that Ryan Spann snatches up a nasty guillotine on this guy and subs him, or that Ryan Spann just beats him in the striking battle. But Ryan Spann showed against Sam Alvey that as much as there is some technical brilliance there, he's also not built for war. He's not, maybe I'm wrong. And if he goes 3 hard rounds a few more times in his career and goes through gut check performances, sure. But he got tired against Alvey, and I just think he's a bit of a quick finisher himself. He either finishes you quick or he gets a little bit tired. And Johnny Walker kind of finishes you quick or he gets a little bit tired. It could easily go both ways. This would seemingly be a dog or pass. Ryan Spann is the dog. I guess I would be leaning ever so slightly towards the dog. But straight up, it's plus 105. So that's not enough dog money for me to actually be comfortable with that. And I do envision Ryan Spann could just get clean clocked out. That would be a fight you want exposure to on DraftKings. 100%. However,
that's
what side of it are you going to be on? I'm not so sure. Walker seems to be more durable than Spann.
Well, if you're multi-entering, you're probably taking both sides.
And here's another thing, right? We talk about Spann, and he's been knocked out quick in a few fights. But going back to Johnny Walker versus Corey Anderson, Anderson had quite literally knocked out nobody. Absolutely nobody. He was just a decision machine. I like betting him because he was either getting KO'd himself or he was taking you down and grinding you down for the decision. That was it. He touched Johnny Walker, hurt Johnny Walker, and then proceeded to knock him out. It was just like, oh, damn. He got him pretty good there. So if either guys have potentially suspect chins, either guy fight kind of wild styles. They're both potent finishers, and they're both kind of 1, maybe 2-round fighters. Just so much volatility both ways that it's probably a hard pass.
All right, we got Mackenzie Dern taking on Ronda Markos. Mackenzie Dern minus 165 favorite. Ronda Markos can be had for plus 145. I have a hard time seeing Ronda Markos win this fight. I know Mackenzie Dern is very, 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 very limited on the feet, but I don't think there's anything she's at least tough. And as long as she can hang out in this fight, all she has to do is really grab a hold of her at some point, wait for the mistake. Ronda Markos always kind of wants to grapple. When's the last time you've seen her just like fight a striking range game? Like that just...
I've seen it.
When?
She loves just cocking up on that big right hand and waiting for that one shot to land. And as a result, she doesn't really throw much of a pace. But
she got armbarred by Angela Hill. What's going to happen if it goes to the mat here? It's a finish for Mackenzie Dern.
No, she armbarred Angela Hill, but I see what you're saying. Like
I'm an idiot.
No.
See, I should have my computer in front of me.
No, it's all good, man. I'm just saying, Ronda Markos. You have Dern here, just on the basis that she'll probably get the fight to the ground and submit her at some point.
Yeah, I think. I just kind of think that's the direction that it goes here. I know she's losing. Yeah, you're right. Armbar. I'm an idiot for.
Nah,
saying
it's
that.
all good, bro. There's 14 fights. And we talk about hundreds of fights. I could one slip through. All good.
I don't know, man. I just think 15 minutes. It only takes one opportunity. Once she has no wrestling. It's going to be a lot of trying to pull guard, maybe like dive at a leg, get a hold, create a scramble. But I think at some point she's gonna catch Ronda. I don't think Ronda can hang once they get down to the ground. And I mean, it's women's MMA, armbar from guard. Like we see this every single week. Eventually, it's like your baby.
Dern could get an armbar from guard for sure. Yeah, I hear you.
Andrea Lee.
Is she my baby?
I mean, she was last week.
I'm going to talk about that in a second, but go on, yeah.
I mean, these fights just end up in these positions.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, pick for me is Dern. I don't know if I'm gonna bet it, but I'm gonna play her on DraftKings. Hopefully she's under-owned. I mean, I'm probably for DraftKings when we talk about that, it's probably I'm gonna be going. We've already talked about like Price, Walker or Spann haven't decided there, but one of those two and Dern, and then you can probably pay up and you'll have to punt on one person, but that's kind of where my head's at on that. What do you think about this? Do you have Ronda winning?
Okay, so first things first, Paul. Last week, not a great week, 7-5 overall. But geez, and you look at those 5 losses. We had Rodriguez versus Herman, which I'll let people make their own decision about that one. But that's a bum way to get a loss. We got 4 other losses, 3 of which were the fucking women's MMA fights, my friend. Julia Avila, just not what I expected in the slightest bit, drops into CRU.
I was hesitant about that one on the
You
show.
were on Roxanne Modafferi, as were a few friends of mine that I know.
Because you talked me out of it.
Right. My bad again. Because exactly what should have happened actually did play out. Roxanne Modafferi did get those takedowns. And Andrea Lee always getting taken down. And looked lost when she was getting taken down. Anyways, you lose that. And then in the main event, however you scored it, the main thing is we got it wrong, right? And all 3 of them are the underdog came through. Eubanks hit as the underdog. Modafferi hit as the underdog. Michelle Waterson hit as the underdog. So right off the get-go, I would be inclined to tell you, don't bet this fight or just bet the underdog, right? At the very least. Beyond that, we have the great Ronda Markos streak still in effect, people. So let's start with
Nah. I
No.
knew you were gonna
And
go
you
down
can counter when I get there because I know what I know. And we'll let
I
the
knew you were
people.
gonna try to say this.
Okay, let me tell my piece, and then you can counter when I'm finished. She loses her UFC debut to Jessica Panay. She wins her second fight against Aisling Daly. Then she loses to Karolina Kovacevic. But then she beat Jocelyn Jones-Leibarger. But then she lost to Courtney Casey. But then she beat Carla Esparza. But then she lost to Alessa Grasso. But then she beat Juliana Lima. But then she lost to Nina Ansarov.
Draw.
And then she had a draw. Okay. Now that
throws off everything, Cody.
Let me finish, Paul. Let me finish. It doesn't throw off nothing because as a result of the draw, it's a non-winner. It's inconclusive. It's like a no contest, essentially. If you had bet it, it would be a push. So let's say you simply only bet the streak and you bet every fight in the streak without even tape researching it. You just bet the streak, okay? When you hit that draw, they would have just given you your money back. Now, the streak can only continue if she wins the fight. Press it. She lost to Nina Ansarov. The draw happens. She has to win for the streak to continue, and she beats Angela Hill with the armbar. But then she loses to Claudia Gadelha. But then she beats Ashley Yoder. But then she loses to Amanda Ribas. This woman has never won 2 fights in a row in the UFC. She has never lost 2 fights in a row in the UFC. That is the streak, Paul. The draw does not affect that. Yeah, I'm betting it based on the fucking streak, man. And then if you want to talk about it more technically speaking,
Markos?
Yeah, of course I am. Well, I mean, come on. I've been burned on every other women's MMA fight I've bet, and I'll get burned on this one as well. So very limited exposure. But yeah, hells yeah. And then let me just talk about it on the technical aspect of it so that we're not just all theory and bullshit. Like, let's throw a little substance behind it as well, right? Mackenzie Dern just struggles with the takedowns. She has world-class jiu-jitsu, no doubt about it, but the takedowns are awful. In most of her fights, she resolves to pulling guard. Now, I know what you're saying. Maybe she could just pull guard and submit Ronda Markos. But if Markos comes in with a good game plan, and listen, Markos is a good wrestler, and beyond that, she's not a great striker by no stretch. He's a better striker than Mackenzie Dern. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not one of these guys that's just fade Dern, she's awful. Mackenzie Dern actually probably will be okay in a few years. But she's very green, first of all. Her striking is just not very good. Her wrestling's not very good. She needs to add more wrinkles to her game beyond world-class jiu-jitsu. So I hear what you're saying. This fight probably hits the ground. Most fights eventually hit the ground. But Markos should be the one dictating if the fight hits the ground. She's the better wrestler. If she wants to take Dern down, she can. That would be an awful call. But I think she uses the wrestling to just keep the fight standing. As far as the fight goes standing, she's just got the better hands. Now, you look at Mackenzie Dern. Everybody likes Mackenzie Dern because she's good looking and she's got the BJJ credentials and she comes to the UFC. And right off the get-go, Paul, her UFC debut is a split decision win over Ashley Yoder. You look at her in that spot, where's that sweet submission game there? Where's all this high-level BJJ credentials? But I guess Ashley Yoder knows how to grapple as well. She squeaks out a split decision, okay? Then she fights Amanda Cooper. My God, she does not look good early in that fight. And she can't get it to the ground. But she drops Amanda Cooper with a shot. Holy shit, never saw that one coming. Drops Cooper, submits her. Again, doesn't really look all that good. Then she gets Amanda Ribas. Well, Amanda Ribas is legit. Amanda Ribas is also the last person to defeat Ronda Markos. And she loses that fight convincingly. There was the fighter that we kind of expected at Dern. Maybe she'll make improvements. But the only other fight she's had since then is the Hannah Cifers fight. And once again, she's getting outstruck standing by Hannah Cifers until Hannah Cifers makes a boneheaded call and decides to play the ground game and gets submitted. Markos just has to avoid that. Keep the fight standing, and she will outstruck Mackenzie Dern. She can go 3 rounds. She just got to watch out for the slip-up. And even if she does make that slip-up and does hit the ground, yeah, like she's been submitted twice in her career. Once unofficially on, I think it was on Tough. She got submitted by Rose Namajunas. What the fuck? It's Rose Namajunas. And she did get submitted by Courtney Casey, who's a BJJ black belt. Whatever. What I'm saying is, even if it does hit the ground, survive long enough to either get back up or get out of the round and then just go back to what you're doing. Keep the fight standing and boxing her out. Because it's 145 dog money, that's what would make me lean on Markos. I would not bet Mackenzie Dern at minus 165. I don't think she's got it. She doesn't got enough for me to really like that. And then on top of that, I'm just talking about how, you know how Pat made the comment a few weeks ago? He's like, what if you just bet the underdog in all these women's MMA fights? Would you be up? And it's like, no, fucking right, you'd be up. You'd be up pretty good. And I'm not saying that this is just going to follow the trend. It's not all trends and patterns. What I'm saying is you should not feel safe with having a grappling advantage in this spot as enough to better at minus 165. So I hate to tell you either pass again, but it's dog or pass, and I'd be leaning towards the dog. Although, of course, I've just got such a bad record right now with WMMA that maybe I should pass personally. I'm a degenerate. I'm going to run a Markos. Moving on.
We got Kevin Holland taking on Darren Stewart. Kevin Holland minus 255 favorite. Darren Stewart plus 215. Darren Stewart's never been knocked out. That is a concern here. And Kevin Holland, although he has looked incredibly improved the last couple fights, looks like everything is kind of coming together. I feel like him doing stupid shit inside of the octagon has not disappeared from us. There isn't a line out on, and the one thing Darren Stewart's got, he's got a pretty nasty guillotine. If he can get it into a scrambly mess, maybe a latch on to that. Plus 215. It's not that I think Kevin Holland wins this fight more often than not. And the actual fight odds may not actually be all that bad, but when a Darren Stewart by submission prop comes out, I may be interested.
Really?
Well, I see him inside the distance right now. I was just looking at that
That'd
on
be
my
a nice
phone.
juicy price, I bet.
It's plus 435 I see right now just inside the distance. Hopefully
What's him by decision? Have you looked at that?
I mean, I wish I had. Yeah.
No, it's all.
I can look it up, but I've got a phone in front of me. What we got here? Darren Stewart by decision is plus 445.
It's a
about
better
the same
price?
price.
Oh, about the same. Okay.
I could see Kevin Holland, who has looked way better. He's got super long reach, he's got all of the intangibles. He just kind of makes dumb decisions while he's in the cage. Obviously, his last fight against Joaquin Buckley, I mean, his tailor-made matchup.
It was a weird fight, though, man. Buckley was throwing heat.
Yeah,
Woof.
absolutely. But he had all the advantages. He was able to fight at distance, and he fought very, very smart. That was the best. The last couple of fights, we've seen him actually use his skills. It was like, if he goes back to the Gerald Meerschaert
that was
type
a sloppy
of
fight, yeah.
Yeah, super sloppy, lots of grappling. Like, he's got to stay away from grappling.
Yeah,
because-
Meerschaert's going to out-grapple Chimaev. Oh, fuck, yeah. Watch that Holland fight if you'd like.
Exactly. That's why I don't understand where
I get
people's
it,
head at is on that one. But honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Like, the only thing I have, I'm not big on adding Kevin Holland at minus 255 against Darren Stewart, who's fought some decent guys. And I think Darren Stewart, as well as Holland, has been making some significant improvements over the last couple of years. Yeah, I'll see what that submission prop comes out as. I could see them just kind of getting a little bit sloppy later in the fight and them latching on to one. But otherwise, it's a stay away from me right now. What about you?
Yeah, I agree, actually. Darren Stewart has been making low-key improvements as well. It just doesn't really shine in comparison to Kevin Holland, who's taking out Fluffy Hernandez in 30 seconds. And, he's so long and rangy, and he fights that kind of fun style, and there's a bit of, like, the karate in there. I just feel like that draws more eyeballs than Darren Stewart low-key putting in work. Darren Stewart low-key working on his submission defense, his grappling, his takedowns, working on his striking's actually not bad, but putting it together a little bit more. I honestly feel like he's been making improvements as well. They're only 2 years apart, 27 years old for Holland. Again, Holland's going to figure out how to put his gifts together eventually. But when he's in there, it's like flashes of brilliance and just like, oh no, what are you doing? And like you said, his last 2 fights probably looked his best. But realistically, he smokes out Hernandez so fast, not much you can really take away about how good he looked in that fight. But outside of that, go to that Joaquin Buckley fight. Like, yeah, he looks good, but he fights a done game plan. Buckley is literally just throwing caution to the wind. He's way shorter than him. He's just sitting in the pocket and he's chucking. And Holland just allows himself to fight to that game plan. For a guy that's that rangy, he hasn't really quite figured out how to use that range. Sometimes he uses it, but for the most part, he just allows you to move into the pocket and have your way. And Darren Stewart just kind of, I just feel like he's too big of an underdog that I would say plus 215 is a very tempting price to look at Darren Stewart. I'm thinking more Darren Stewart by decision. Going back to that Buckley fight, I really do think that Buckley could have put some money in the bank and won some of those rounds. As a result, he just went guns a-blazing, got really tired. And if you look how that motherfucker's built, holy shit, man. How are you going to fight 15 minutes throwing hammers like that, dog?
He was the loudest breather I think I've ever...
Yeah,
if you go back and watch that fight, it was like, is this guy tired or does he just breathe really loud?
Took the fight on short notice as well.
And it was an empty arena, of course, because of COVID, but all you could hear is just...
And Joaquin Buckley had previously just been a regional show fighter, and that was about it. Taking the fight on short notice and just threw down on Holland and had a lot of success. And then when I think about Stewart and I think about just those improvements and that progress, realistically speaking, this is his record here, right? He's underdog against fucking Eric Spicely, underdog against Charles Byrd. The Edmund Shabazian fight, I gave him a pass. Split decision. Shabazian was supposed to be the shit at the time. He gave him a go. It was a split, whatever. But Vaughn Lewis is the underdog, and man, Bavon was supposed to be the man, training out of Greg Jackson's alongside John Jones. Mega prospect. Beats Bavon Lewis. Nice. Deron Wynn. Oh, this guy's a mega prospect, training out of AKA with Daniel Cormier. Oh, fuck. Beat him too. Then he got bar-toased, which I will definitely give you a pass for. And then
and that was in Cage Warriors. It was supposed to be a UFC card.
Is what it is.
It was a weird week.
But then he redeems himself. He comes out there against Maki Pitolo. They do throw down. Maki's obviously a good boxer. And Maki's a good boxer in the first round. But, I mean, Stewart hangs with him long enough to snatch up that guillotine, and then he puts him away with it. This guy's versatile. Again, he's only 29 years old. And I don't think he went back to England, because otherwise he'd be in the Fight Island card coming up. Instead, he must have stayed in Vegas. Yeah, I honestly do think he'll come in decent shape. And Holland just he leaves these spots for you to, again, put money in the bank and secure rounds. And I think Darren Stewart could pull off the underdog victory straight up at plus 215. But furthermore, I don't know that he finishes Kevin Holland. I think it more so just becomes one of these fights that eventually gets kind of sloppier. Stewart does the better work with the striking. Stewart maybe secures a takedown late in the round and ends up greasing out a 29-28, maybe even the split. But then that plus 440 as a Darren Stewart by decision victory would look definitely appealing as a potential punt. And we'll talk about DraftKings at the end of the show, but I don't think there's a ton of value on this fight for the DraftKings side of it. Well, maybe like you said, Stewart 7,100 if he pulls off the guillotine or if he can tire Holland out.
Yeah, if Holland does something really, really dumb, puts himself in trouble early on,
Holland 9,100, like no chance.
I mean, Darren Stewart's never been knocked. He's never been knocked out. He has been submitted. I don't see that as a real threat from Kevin Holland.
I don't. No, you're right. I don't.
So yeah, let's move on. I think we think that Holland should be favored. Just minus 255. It's a little bit too wide. It's probably closer to a 60-40 split type of situation, in my opinion. We got Maria Bueno Silva taking on Mara Romero Borella. Silva minus 245. Borella plus 205. You were saying that you are terrified of women's MMA. Well, Cody, we got a couple more on the slate for you here. What do you think about this matchup?
I'm thinking if you could specifically bet a prop of armbar from guard, that this one would have a very high likelihood of being that armbar from guard, especially when you look at Silva's fight versus Jillian Robertson. It's just like, oh yeah, armbars from guard would be definitely live in this one. Honestly, man, it's just not a good fight to get a read on based on just like we were talking about. The numbers for us haven't exactly been good on these spots, and she's just we'll start with Maria Bueno Silva, not Mara Romero Borella. Fucking similar names, man. But with Bueno Silva, she's a shoot-to-box stylist, right? So she's got that aggressive Muay Thai, likes to march forward. She's got the better striking than Borella. I completely agree. I think she outstrikes Borella if the fight stays standing. As far as the fight goes on the wrestling side of things, it's probably fairly comparable. Borella's shown that she can get the fight to the ground. She doesn't have terrible grappling, but whereas, well, I shouldn't say grappling. Her wrestling's okay, but when she does get the fight to the ground, that's where it kind of was her bread and butter. That's how she's going to win fights. But seeing the Corny Casey fight again, another armbar from guard situation, it's like, it's just not trustworthy. It's kind. I don't want to call
her
it
last 3 fights.
I don't want to call it low level grappling, but it's just like it's not super high level. So I think it could go either way in that regard. If Borella's going to pull this off as the underdog, she gets the takedowns, she outgrinds her, she maybe grinds her up against the cage, she slows this fight down right to a halt, and then picks up a decision. Where if Silva wins this fight, she's just going to outstrike her, she's going to march her down, she's going to beat on her, or she could eventually pop up that submission as well. So yeah, I think Silva for sure. But minus 245, I literally want absolutely no exposure to that whatsoever. And most books cap you, well, not most books, a lot of books cap you at 12 fight parlays, that kind of thing. That's just telling you, cut off the ones that you absolutely shouldn't be a part of it. That's it. Borella, 3-fight losing streak, like you said. She's getting up there in age, even though she's an ATT fighter, and I think she's a BJJ black belt. She just hasn't shown you enough. But this is just one of those
Borella's
spots.
a BJJ black belt?
I'm pretty sure she is. Didn't they announce that when she debuted in the UFC and she beat Kalira Faria? Remember that? It was a big underdog.
Kalindra Faria.
And she cashes a plus 190 underdog in that spot. Made 12-12. Cashes as the underdog in that spot, and it was just like, oh, her BJJ is pretty good. And then right away, she fights Caitlin Chukagi, and there's like a top contender. It's like, oh man. And she just gets danced around. Absolutely not in it.
Yep.
Taylor Santos, it was a split decision. Taylor Santos was undefeated. Taylor Santos has actually looked a lot better in her last fight, but just dropped down, two weight classes, I believe. And then, yeah, Lauren Murphy, Montana De La Rosa, Courtney Casey. Those are all mid-pack, mostly grapplers. That's not what she's facing here in Silva, who's a mid-pack striker. So maybe she can use her grappling to her advantage for a change. I'm just not really sold on it whatsoever. And by the way, Jillian Robertson's a decent grappler. Silva was able to catch her with the armbar in the first round. So, like, yeah, submission definitely on the table.
Fair.
Low-key, Silva will probably submit Borella in the first round, and whereas I won't give a shit, the $9,000 on DraftKings, because she's a very high price tag in DraftKings, should be low ownership and could theoretically score pretty good. So I could see her being on, like, maybe an optimal lineup, or at least a good lineup, just based on low ownership.
I mean, there's so many fights, though.
Yeah, and just better options at that 9,000 range, right? But, I mean, do you like Silva over fucking Borella, or do you like Kevin Holland for $100 more than Darren Stewart?
I don't like Kevin Holland.
No, I don't at all. It's $100 more. Like, I think Silva could go out there and get that first round finish, sure. And she, by the way, she's got a lot of advantage. Better striker, better output, better cardio, stronger, younger, more versatile. But it's women's MMA, man.
All right, let's rip through there's so many fights on this card. And I'm not going to lie, I haven't done tape on.
It's hard to, especially coming off Contender Series last night.
Yeah, we're doing like 3 different sports this week. It's been tough keeping up with at the best of times, and then they drop this 15-fight card on us. Yeah. David Dvorak takes on Jordan Espinosa. It's a pick'em. Dvorak minus 110, Espinosa minus 110. You have any leans here?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with David Dvorak on this one. Coming into the UFC, his regional show career actually looked pretty decent. He was like 17-3 on the regional show and just smashing these guys, man. Smashing them in like various ways. I mean, his ground game looks pretty good. His wrestling looks pretty good. His takedown defense looks pretty good. Striking looks fairly adequate. The one thing is how does a guy with 20 pro fights on the Czech regional scene going to fare in the UFC against legitimate UFC competition? Now, he didn't get legitimate UFC competition, I should say, in his debut against Bruno Silva. But Bruno Silva, he's a training partner of Henry Cejudo and the Pitbull Brothers out of Arizona. He's got UFC experience. He's fought in the Ultimate Fighter. He's fought for LFA. He's a more experienced guy. I actually did pick Bruno Silva in that spot. Bruno Silva hurts Dvorak, drops him in the first round. And outside of that, like Dvorak gets dropped, gets back up, and just keeps going. And holy shit, this guy's strong. Bruno Silva's trying to take him down. Can take him down. And Dvorak, good gas tank, just keeps going. Then he gets the victory. Earned victory. It was a close fight. I seen some people crying robbery. Wasn't robbery. Right guy won. And I had Bruno Silva. Right guy won with Dvorak. And then it's like, you know what? This guy's okay. I'd like to see him develop a little bit. But what I saw was okay. It was his UFC debut. Let's improve on that and get better. With Jordan Espinosa, he's been on my radar for a long time. The guy's a freak athlete. But beyond that, kind of gasses a little bit after the first round. It's just that like fast twitch movement. He's almost like a John Dodson in a way, where it's like that first round, I mean, his wrestling is just badass. He was a really good high school wrestler. Didn't wrestle at a very high level collegiately. But again, you see his movement, and even if he's not wrestling, just his movement, his footwork, he's very athletic, he's very mobile. He shows you a look. But if he doesn't get those takedowns on you and he's forced to strike with you, he can get chopped up. And as far as being on the ground, he can get submitted. And I honestly think that Dvorak is kind of like a brick shithouse. I think he's just like a tough dude. And that should be enough to get the win over Espinosa. Espinosa probably goes out there in the first round and tries to push the pace with the takedowns. Maybe he does get the takedowns. But Dvorak's takedown defense checks out. Really not that bad. And even if he does get him down, I think he's going to just... Dvorak will either get it back up or he's going to cost Espinosa energy. Second and the third round, going to be closer, going to be more competitive. But Dvorak's going to outstrike him, keep the fight standing, chop away at him, either finishes him late or picks up that decision. This is what? It's the only even money fight on the card, right? 110 each side. You know, it's a coin flip. I got Dvorak in that coin flip.
Now we got Jessica Rose Clark taking on Sarah Alpar. Minus 225, Jessica Rose Clark, plus 185 Alpar. I have no idea. I have no idea about this fight. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, all good. So
I don't know who Sarah Alpar is. Explain that to me.
So basically, it's got just more apple pie shit written all over it because Sarah Alpar, not somebody that's competed a whole lot in her career. I mean, she's already 29 years old. She got the Contender Series contract with the win over Shayna Young, right? So she submits to Shayna Young. She gets the win. She gets the contract. And then she was supposed to fight Duda Santana in her UFC debut back in March or I think it was May. She's supposed to fight Duda Santana, gets canceled due to coronavirus, whatever. She's been on layoff. So now you figure, geez, that fight over Shayna Young was almost exactly a year ago. So you have somebody making their official UFC debut, coming off a year-long layoff. Okay, we've got questions right off the get-go. Her losses, they're a long time ago. Karina Dam was once upon a time a top fighter, and that's 4 years ago. She just hasn't fought a whole lot after that. She fought once in 2017, once in 2018, once in 2019. This is going to be her first fight of 2020. What we do know about her, especially through her Contender Series fight with Young, is that she's a pretty big, physically strong girl. She's got some decent wrestling, I suppose. The question here is that wrestling enough to beat Jessica Rose Clark, who seemingly has got her outgunned in terms of better striking, potentially better output, certainly better experience. She's been in much higher spots. But this is her official, I think it's her official bantamweight debut. So she's moving up to 135 pounds to take on Alpar, and Alpar's got decent size for 135 to begin with and is the better wrestler. So you would want to say Jessica Rose Clark because she's got the experience. She seemed to be a little bit of a crisper fighter. There was a time where Jess Rose Clark, when she was still back in Australia, New Zealand, still kicking in that scene, she'd look just real raw and brute, not super athletic. But she spent a lot of time in Las Vegas just working hard. She's got a great work ethic, and she's made a lot of improvements. I would say that she should be the favorite. She should definitely go out there and defeat Sarah Alpar. One, we're going right back to the WMMA. I don't really want no part of this. And two, as much as we can say that, one of her biggest threats is her size at 125. She's big and she's strong. If you look back at her UFC debut against Beck Rawlings made a career of being just physical at 115. Rawlings comes up to 125, not nearly as physical as Jessica Rose Clark, loses the fight. That's her physicality. That's carried her to where she is. Not technique, physicality. If she gives up that physicality going to 135 to Sarah Alpar, and Sarah Alpar is able to take her down and just control her on the ground, then I can see Alpar picking up a decision here as well. Last thing I want to say, Jess Rose Clark, super fun to watch on social media, got a pretty good social media presence, but her whole thing moving up to this weight class is just thick girls club, 2 seasons thick, by the way. And it's just her lifting weights and the ass on this girl, man, goddamn. And then just she's definitely filling out to the 135 frame, no doubt about it. But I don't know that she's naturally got that 135 frame right now. So Alpar could just be a live underdog on the consensus of if Pat was here, he'd tell you, blindly bet the big underdog in these spots. And Alpar checks out in that regard. But I do agree that Jess Rose Clark should get the victory based on experience and technique. She will be on the PRP at the end of the show. It's just not a spot that I personally like. I'm going to pass a lot on these women's fights this week.
I'm going to pass a lot on this entire undercard unless I find some time during the week to do some tape or I see something at the weigh-ins. I'm not going to lie. This is I don't have very much on a bunch of this prelims, to be perfectly honest.
Well, we'll get through it then.
Journey Newsom takes on, it's just so much filler at this point. Journey Newsom takes on Randy Costa, minus 140 Newson. Randy Costa, plus 120. I mean, bunch of Contender Series guys. Slap them in. Get them in here. I don't know, man. I'm running out of I'm running out of things to say on this card.
Well, just keep passing, man. Throw it over here. We'll get through them. It's no big deal. Anyways, talking about Randy Costa. The problem with Randy Costa is that he's very young still, 26 years old, but he's very raw. You look at his entire amateur career, he's just finishing guys in the first round. You look at his entire professional career, finishing guys in the first round. Pro debut, 46 seconds. Second fight, 11 seconds. Third fight, 1 minute and 11 seconds. Fourth fight, 42 seconds. And then he makes his UFC debut. How can you make your UFC debut when you have under 5 minutes of professional cage time? But he's a training partner of Joe Lozon. He's out of Lozon MMA. People on the East Coast really like this kid. And again, he's only 26. He's making those improvements. He seems to got some like nasty power. We talk about the death touch. At least Niko Price has proven us he's got the death touch. You know, this kid's got a ways to go still. But from what he's at least shown on tape, man, guy can hit. Now, he makes his UFC debut against Brandon Davis. Tough spot for him considering Davis got 15 pro fights versus this kid who's got less than 5 minutes of cage time. And as a result, he lays it on Brandon Davis the first round, but Davis just takes it. In the second round, now Randy Costa's unfamiliar territory. What's the second round like? Tires out, and Davis just works him over, ends up submitting him in the second round. Win for him. Now he gets the Boston Salmon fight. And you know what? Maybe he does got this death touch because he hits Boston Salmon and he knocks him out. Nice little win for Costa. I think this guy is going to be making improvements. I think this guy is dangerous. I think this guy might be able to catch Journey Newson. But straight up, I don't mind Journey Newson. Journey Newson's got decent boxing pedigree, like decent fundamentals. And as far as his UFC career goes, his UFC debut against Ricardo Ramos, short notice, just skill differential, like big skill gap here, right? Comes into the UFC, gives a good account of himself in the first round, hurts him with the leg kicks, boxing looks on point, but eventually he slips up, he ends up losing the unanimous decision. Then his second fight against Domingo Parte, he blasts Pilarte 38 seconds in the first round with the overhand right. Just flatlines this man. But then it turns out he was smoking the weed and they gave him a no contest on it. Maybe people are now looking at the fact that this guy's winless in the UFC. It's like, no. He's coming along. He's doing some good. His father was actually a professional boxer as well, something that runs in his family. And I would honestly look at this spot as a case of Randy Costa is a good striker, but Journey Newson's going to be adequate enough to defend himself standing. And if Costa doesn't get that first round finish, I can see him gassing out again. Newson pulling away rounds 2, rounds 3, getting him low key as well. I think Newson has the wrestling advantage. So if you can just get Randy Costa tired after the first round, you might be able to take him down, out-grapple him a little bit. Anyways, like you said, it's not a pretty spot. It's not the kind of spot you'd have a ton of faith in. But for minus 140, I would pick Journey Newson.
Andre Ewell takes on Erwin Rivera. Andre Ewell minus 210 favorite. Rivera can be had for plus 175. 7-inch reach advantage for Andre Ewell here. He should be able to land, dominate early on in fights, but we have seen him slow down as the fight goes on. Erwin Rivera, on the other hand, I mean, he can take a hellacious beating, and he's just going to keep moving forward. Interesting style matchup. Who you have winning this one?
Yeah, I got to go with Andre Ewell. And listen, I mean, is he the kind of guy that shit my apple pie a few times? Yes, most definitely. In fact, he shit my apple pie last time out, and it was a robbery decision over Jonathan Martinez that got it done. But I can't take away anything from Andre Ewell is that he's super long for the division, right? He plays to his skills. I don't like him in the sense that he just stays to the outside and pot shots. But because he's got 75-inch reach on him at 135 pounds, he can kind of get away with it. Stand on the outside and just pot shot you. You have to make the move on him. You have to close this gap. His wrestling defense, not very good. He's got a good guillotine choke on him. His grappling's okay, enough to survive anyways. But like that's not his wheelhouse. His wheelhouse is pot shot from the outside. Whereas that's not going to get you very far, and I don't think him being an elite level talent by no stretch of the imagination, that's more than enough to beat Erwin Rivera. Now, Erwin Rivera, not bad, and a striker. As far as striker versus striker goes, Erwin Rivera, you could convince me, is the better striker. Maybe he's a little cleaner. The difference here is, though, Erwin Rivera does not deal with reach well whatsoever. See, Erwin Rivera's only got a 68-inch reach on him. So not only is he just always giving up the reach advantage, he's giving up a fucking 7-inch reach advantage in this spot. And that becomes incredibly worrisome because Ewell that's what he plays off of. He plays off of the reach advantage. He just wants to stay on the outside and pot shot. So now Erwin Rivera needs to either take him down or close the distance and outstrike him. See, taking him down is going to be a problem because Erwin Rivera is just not a wrestler, right? I mean, he's a striker. He's a short striker, spent a lot of time at the Black Zillions camp, Henry Hoof and those guys. I don't think he's going to be able to spring the takedown game and at least stay with it consistently enough to make that his path to victory. So now we got the striking game. And look at his debut against Giga Chikadze. Yes, it's short notice, and yes, he moves up to 145. The key takeaway here, though, is because he's up a weight class, Giga is bigger than him, and Giga's already a long-rangey fighter to begin with. And Erwin Rivera he's almost half lost out there. Like, he just doesn't really have an answer for that distance. So I don't think this is going to be a pretty fight. I think it's going to be a hustle up. And I think that Andre Ewell is going to get that hustle up. Minus 210, I'm going to take him by decision to get a better price. Erwin Rivera, durable. And pot-shotting a guy from distance, not a good way to finish a guy, to be honest. So Andre Ewell going to get a better price off the 210 by making it by decision.
We got TJ Laramie taking on Derek Minner. TJ Laramie minus 210 favorite. Derek Minner plus 245. I mean, I looked through TJ Laramie, a local guy here. You know a ton about him from your work at Fight Network over the years. I mean, I see 2 knockout losses on his career. The only way Derek Minner typically wins fights is
Get after it.
get after it early. Can he land the big punch here and come through as a plus 245 underdog? What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fist fight. Anything can happen. And with Derek Minner, I mean, he certainly goes for it all times. With one thing with Derek Minner is that it's almost funny how Dana White just preaches finishes and entertaining fights. And you should go out there and you should put it all on the line. He wants guys like that. Derek Minner is 100% that. And then what does he do? Fight for a contract against Herbert Burns. It's like, oh, man, what's he going to do against Herbert Burns? He can't out-grapple him. Okay, fair. UFC debut against Grant Dawson. It's like, oh, man, that's a tough UFC debut. Now he gets TJ Laramie. It's like he's getting put in spots where, like, his really flashy grappling and, like, his really quick finish you in one round, it's just he's not able to utilize it because, like, these guys are actually good. So TJ Laramie, yeah, it's a good spot here. He's making his UFC debut. He has both of his pro losses. Sorry, he's got 3 pro losses. His first pro loss against Vince Murdoch, it's a split decision. Total fucking bullshit robbery. Happens in Michigan. Vince Murdoch's from Michigan. They became friends afterwards at Team Alpha Male in Sacramento. But anyways, it's in Michigan. It's a flat robbery. Even the local Michigan crowd starts booing and throwing shit. Just flat robbery. You shouldn't even count it. But then both of his losses after that are Alex Morgan. The first time it's early stoppage. He gets caught early in the fight against Alex Morgan. He gets folds over. The ref just stops it. Again, he's in enemy territory in Quebec. The crowd is raucous. All Alex Morgan fans. The second that the referee had the opportunity to stop it, he stops it. The only fair thing to do is run it back. And then there's the problem. When they do run it back, Laramie looks good until Alex Morgan catches him. But beyond that, it's like he's just so young. And this is a guy that's like bred for combat. I mean, him and his younger brother, Tony Laramie, who you will be seeing in the UFC, are just like specimens of that new generation. You always think about guys that got into fighting a little bit later. Like these guys got into it right off the get-go. Now, like, what are the credentials? Are they former Golden Glove champions? Are they former collegiate wrestling standouts? Are they BJJ black belts? Like, no, none of them. Neither of the above. They do everything. They learn right from the get-go, do everything. They've trained with some of the best guys in the Canadian area. And once they excelled past the Canadian area, then he's gone to Michigan, he's gone to Las Vegas, gone to Team Alpha Male. TJ Laramie's done everything in his power to become the best fighter he can. The one thing I will give him, that it will be the knock on him going forward beyond this fight, I have him all day over Derek Minner. I honestly think he could just keep the fight standing. He has strikes Derek Minner, he beats him. When Minner gets tired in the second round, probably second round TKO TJ Laramie. TJ Laramie does decide to take him down. I think he just thwarts off the submission attempts and is able to out-grapple Derek Minner till Derek Minner eventually gets tired. TJ Laramie gets the win. I got Laramie. He's on a parlay, obviously, with our 2 other favorite picks, or my 2 favorite picks, I should say. But Colby Covington, Kazmat Chimaev, TJ Laramie. That's definitely a parlay that I got rolling. And I think TJ Laramie's a stud. The one thing I will throw out is going beyond this Derek Minner fight, going beyond TJ Laramie's first, second, third fight in the UFC. The one thing to bar note on is that he's listed at 5'6". I don't think he's 5'6". He's 5'5". And that's a factor to me because there's no other featherweights in the UFC that are 5'5". I know on Contender Series they list him at 5'6". If you watch his TKO MMA fights, he's listed at 5'5". If you've met him, he's 5'5". Mm-hmm. That it puts him as the shortest featherweight on the UFC's roster. And there's a lot of featherweights on the UFC roster. It also basically puts him as like the shortest featherweight in the UFC's roster for a very long time. Outside of Jimmy Rivera, who's also 5'4", is a bantamweight, did take one fight at 145 during this pandemic. Outside of that, it's just like, I don't know that he's got the frame to be an elite featherweight. Now, I think all day this guy could be an elite bantamweight, but he's just too thick to make 135. The weight cut just kills him too much. So he's a promising prospect, and I think he is going to get better, and he could definitely prove me wrong. I think he's got all the skills here. Better striker, better wrestler, better grappler. He's young, he's confident. He's coming off the Contender Series fight against Daniel Swain, where he took no damage, jumped right back into camp. He should be able to go out there and take out Derek Minner. I got a lot of faith in him. It's going to be interesting to me seeing where he goes beyond this at 145 pounds, where I think that once he gives up that reach and that height and that power to all these other guys, that Alex Morgan situation could definitely creep back up, where a big, strong guy holds his ground, counters him with a big right hand, and chin checks him, right? So anyways, I got Laramie here.
Tyson Nam was supposed to fight last week. Opponent pulls out due to COVID, which, you know, everybody on this card is ripe for the taking. We're still in Vegas, so who knows? We'll probably end up from a 14 card.
Half this card could still
it'll be like
fall
an
off,
8-fight
of
card by
course.
the
Yeah,
time we get
of
to
course.
Saturday. Tyson Nam minus 175. Jerome Rivera is plus 155. I caught a little bit of your live stream on Odds 10?
Odds.com.
Odds.com last night, and it sounded like you were leaning towards the underdog Rivera in this spot.
No.
That's what it sounded like on
Did
the show.
it? Yeah, did it.
They all said Tyson Nam should roll, and then you disagreed with them.
Well, I don't know if
That's
we
what it
went
seemed
that
like
far.
to me.
Well, I don't know. I would say I like Jerome Rivera. I think Jerome Rivera could be a fun prospect in the division. It's just not a good stylistical matchup for him because he needs to rely on his grappling chops. And against Tyson Nam's got a 100% takedown defense in the UFC. A guy that spent a lot of time in Portland, Oregon. A guy that's very hard to take down. I don't know that Jerome Rivera takes him down. Jerome Rivera, as much as I think he's fun, I think he's fun because of his days back in like the LFA scene. But Roberto Sanchez eventually made the UFC, submits him, and then Brandon Royval eventually makes the UFC. It was a injury, like a hand injury. It was a dislocated elbow, I think. 40 seconds into the fight, no problem about that. It's beyond that. It's a contender series fight with Luis Rodriguez. I didn't think he won the fight, man. I didn't think he won the fight at all. I had him bet because I was a big fan of him, again, from his LFA days. I thought he was a young prospect, good grappler, wily. But I think he was very generous to get the win over Luis Rodriguez to eventually sign with the UFC. And now he's in the spot against Tyson Nam. Well, if you don't take Tyson Nam down, and I don't think he will, he needs to strike with him. And he's so green with his striking still, Paul. He doesn't throw a whole lot standing. And Tyson Nam don't throw a whole lot either. But you at least got to outwork Tyson Nam, which Matt Schnell had the possibility of doing. But I thought Tyson Nam was going to line up Schnell eventually, hit him, and knock him out. And if you weren't able to take down Tyson Nam, which I didn't think Schnell would, you had to stand with him. You had to just go on output. And Schnell doesn't have a great chin. I had Tyson Nam there. Looking at this spot, Rivera needs to get the fight to the ground. But again, I don't see him taking down Tyson Nam. So now he's got to stand with him. But he doesn't have that output. He's actually a worse striker than Matt Schnell. So definitely Tyson Nam. Tyson Nam also minus 175 is not a bad price tag. I would like to say Tyson Nam by decision, just on the basis that he doesn't throw a whole lot. But this is a guy that if he does hit you, he will knock you out. And Jerome Rivera is officially making his UFC debut, coming off a robbery decision over Luis Rodriguez, effectively 6 weeks ago, right? Tyson Nam was getting ready to fight last week. He's ready to go. He's had his full camp. You know, he's got no injuries, or at least he didn't. Wasn't pulling out of his matchup with an injury. All the same, Tyson Nam minus 175. I'd like to try to get it Nam by decision, but I don't think I will. I think I'll just take it straight up, 175.
And finally, no DraftKings pricing or boards on this one. Late add to the card. Miguel Baeza takes on Jeremiah Wells. Baeza minus 330 favorite. It's only on like one book across the internet from what I see right now. Wells can be had for plus 270. Baeza coming off of the win over Matt Brown. He kind of, what?
Fucking, I had Brown, and I thought Brown had a chance.
Too.
I thought Brown had a chance.
Things were looking good, and then he knocked out Matt Brown. Not an easy task to do. So he earned some respect from me that day. I don't know much about Wells in this situation. I see that he's the number one prospect coming out of Pennsylvania in his weight class.
Yeah.
The Baeza's got intangibles like the long limbs, decent power. I wasn't very impressed. That's why I was trying to fade him against Matt Brown last time out. So is this a spot where it's a little bit too much juice, or should he roll through Jeremiah Wells?
Well, it's just a tough spot for Jeremiah Wells. I mean, he's making his UFC debut, and he's no spring chicken. I mean, he's 33 years old. I think he's like 4 weeks shy of his 34th birthday. But this is a spot where the UFC needs bodies. They need guys to come in, and this is a late edition of the card. These cards have been falling off. That's why the UFC eventually did learn their lesson and said, you know what, let's just put 14, 15 fights on it, knowing that it'll drop down to 12 or 11. It is too much. But this is just a fight that just got thrown over late. So with Jeremiah Wells, to get that call, oh man, here's your UFC debut. It's like, oh dude, I didn't have to go through the contender series. I didn't have to go through some crazy victory to win the LFA title. I didn't have to do any of that. I'm just getting the call up here to take on Baeza. Baeza, they like Baeza. He's undefeated. He actually did fight in contender series and got the contract. And since then, to give Miguel Baeza the Matt Brown fight shows the confidence in him that, hey, we like this kid. because Matt Brown's a good, savvy veteran with a name. And you give those guys to guys that you're trying to build up a little bit. Baeza Jiu-Jitsu is okay. His power leaves something to imagination, but he's fluid, he's quick, and he's got some pow, man, for sure. Now, his chin had seemingly checked out. Guy can take a punch. But I'll admit, he got crisped a couple of times by Matt Brown. Hurt, not knocked out, and definitely recovers. So maybe that shows that he can take a punch, as opposed to, oh, man, he was seriously hurt in that fight. No mind Baeza. With Jeremiah Wells, he beat a friend of mine, Scott Hudson, 7 years ago. 7 years ago. And I have been following him since then. His problem is that he's just super infrequent. So, one fight in 2012, beats my boy Scott Hudson in 2013, one fight in 2014, takes 2015 off, beats the infamous Manny Wallow, you'll know him if you know Phoenix Jones, in 2016, one fight in 2017, which was a draw, one fight in 2018, he kicks it back up, wins 3, but then he loses to Vinicius de Jesus in 2019, and it seems like, he's fought a few more times in 2018 and 2019, and then now he takes a year-long gap to make his UFC debut. I think he's actually got a grappling, I wouldn't say a grappling advantage, but he's decent with his grappling. He's strong, he's physical. It's just, I got a feeling on a late notice fight like this, it does favor Baeza. He's the better athlete. He's younger. He does have good grappling chops as well. He's at a good camp, MMA Masters. But the price is not right because it's a short notice fight no matter how you look on it. Just the lateness of it getting thrown on. There's a lot of unknowns with Jeremiah Wells. And this does have the potential that Baeza's a big favorite. You already mentioned it. He's like, what, 370?
Minus 330. That was like an opener. Honestly, when we started the show, it wasn't even, there was nothing out there.
Yeah. So,
minus 330 plus 270.
Right. So let's say it's minus 330, okay? That makes it 40 points more than TJ Laramie, who I really like, right? It makes it 50 points less than Chimaev, who I really like. And it puts it right around the same ballpark as Colby Covington. To me, Baeza is not in those guys' leagues because there's still a lot of unprovenness there. And just going back, right, his Contender Series fight, ain't no walk in the park, man. He beat Victor Reina, who is not good at all, by decision. Dicey enough decision. Man, they give him the contract because they need bodies. Then he beats Hector Aldana. I don't got to say nothing to you, Paul Shaughnessy, about Hector Aldana because you fucking know. And then the Matt Brown fight is like, why is he fighting Matt Brown? And it was dicey. And then he beats Brown, who's 40 and a lot of injuries, and chin is definitely not there anymore.
Been in a lot of wars.
And the speed discrepancy, holy shit! Like Baeza looked like Matt Brown was walking in quicksand. To be honest, it was kind of sad to see. Baeza gets the win. Am I sold on him? Are we sold on him? Is this a super prospect? Is he running? No, I don't know.
He's like, what? He's 20, 28, 29?
Yeah, right?
So he's not like a young, like if he had his skill set when he's like 22 years old, you'd be like, okay, this could go in some directions. He's in his prime right now, or close to it.
Yeah, and I honestly do think that this is the kind of guy that he's doing the right thing, getting experience. Aldana's shit, right? So go out there and get that win. Matt Brown, well, he's not what he used to be. Go out there and get that win. And Jeremiah Wells, come on, man, you should be Jeremiah Wells, but he's getting ring time, he's getting cage time, he's getting experience, he's getting to try out new things. He could be good. I think he could be good. It's just right now, he's still green. He's still got a lot of holes in his game, and 330 as a price tag is just too much.
All right, let's pull up the Maddie. Pull up the DraftKings boards here. We'll just rip through that as we look over at the screen. Chimaev 94, Gerald 315. If you're insane, you can play Gerald Meerschaert. I guess they all think that there's going to be a submission. He doesn't knock out anybody, so I mean, Hamzat's been averaging like 115 points. Now, this is the hardest fight of his career so far, but 100 is very, very much in his wheelhouse in this spot. Obviously, Colby 9,300. I mean, he's got an extra couple rounds to play with. This guy has went off for like 150 points multiple times. It's going to be hard to get the takedowns against Tyron Woodley, at least early in the fight. Woodley's got his own wrestling credentials. These guys have probably spent a lot of time in the same wrestling room at American Top Team over the years before, obviously, all of the falling out here. Both very, very good options, but it's a matter of like, who are the cheap dumpster dives that you're going to do to fill in lineups like that? Any thoughts on DraftKings? So we got, I mean, we already highlighted Nico Price, 8,500 GPP special. If he's going to catch Cerrone, he's good. If he's going to win this fight, I feel like it probably comes by knockout. Cerrone is a slow starter. Cerrone has all of the skills advantage in this fight, giving up a lot of size, giving up power, and I don't know if he can take the same damage as he could. He's never really good at taking damage to the body, but where are you going in terms of a DraftKings perspective here?
Yeah, so just running through it really quickly. Covington at 9,300. That he just puts on such a pace. It's 5 rounds. T Wood's just going to be punching bag. It'd be a good price. Now, if you did have T Wood by the first round knockout, that's his way to beat Colby. Colby's hittable. 69 would be considered a punt. I could see that. Not for me, but all the same. Nico Price versus Cerrone. You want some upside. You want some exposure there. 8,500 for Nico Price. Very fair. Very fair. He get that first round knockout. Sure. Cerrone wins. He's going to have output. He could have takedowns. He could have a late submission. He could have a late finish. Outside of that, I mean, he could definitely put it together. We're going with Nico Price. That would be a guy. Nico Price at 8,500 is not one of the high expensive options, so that helps. Because I like Laramie, I like Chimaev, I like Covington. You can't put the 3 of them on the same card.
No.
So at that point, a guy like Nico Price becomes very valuable. Going on to Kazmat Chimaev, $9,400, absolutely agree. I think he can just takedowns, output, ground and pound, get eventually a finish. Plus, Fight Metric seems to like this guy, right? So whereas they basically never really count ground and pound, they do on Chimaev, baby. They'll give him all 100% of those strikes. So I got there. Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann. You're going on some exposure. Honestly, Walker, but he's 8,300. Spann, be nice to save some money and get that big one. If you're going for GPP, you go for a piece of this. If you're going for a cash game, a lot of volatility for sure. I wouldn't want Rondo Markos or Mackenzie Dern on DraftKings. Mackenzie Dern's got the higher upside with the ability to get the submission finish, but at $8,700, I don't want to rely on that. Rondo Markos, she's just not really, she's never been a high DraftKings score ever. The fact that it is $7,500, that could be a good cash game play, assuming she just squeaks out a decision, but it won't be a high scoring thing. Darren Stewart, very, very good look at 7,100, I think. As we talked about the show earlier, I didn't think it was because he's not going to finish Kevin Holland, in my opinion. But for $7,100, who gives a shit? Just win. Just win the fight. Just get the decision. $7,100, that's fine. Because you can still go get 60, 70 points, keep the team alive. 7,100, you get a winner. Perfect. Borella versus Silva, I want no exposure. Silva could obviously be a high uptake because low ownership and a high upside. Maybe she is one of those optimals. Who knows? David Dvorak, another guy I'm looking at. He's only $8,200, so he fits like that lower mid-range. But again, he's going to have to tire Espinosa and finish him late. Alpar versus Clark, I wouldn't want no exposure on that. Alpar's going to try to wrestler, low scoring. Clark's a grinder, low scoring. Newson versus Costa. Costa could just definitely bang him out. He really could. Costa would be considered another punt guy, $7,800, high upside. However, I'm not sold on him. I don't like him personally. I go Journey Newson on that one for 84. Ewell's going to be low scoring. Erwin Rivera is going to be low scoring. TJ Laramie is going to get Derek Minner out of there. I think he's going to be high scoring. Again, he's another $9,200 guy. The one thing here, though, is Colby Covington, headliner, big name, former champion.
5 rounds.
High ownership, right? Kazmat Chimaev, big name. People seem to like him. High ownership. TJ Laramie, kind of around that same ballpark. He's $100 cheaper than Colby Covington, $200 cheaper than Chimaev.
What's the likelihood of him outscoring those two guys, though?
Good enough. Good enough just on the basis of if you look at Derek Minner's career, it's bang or bust. Like, he either finishes you quick or he gets finished. Because I don't see him finishing TJ Laramie fast, I think TJ Laramie takes him out. Now, Laramie's got that wrestling. He's got that grinding. But you just see the Daniel Swain fight. Once he does get you down, he's got output there. He's going to work you over a little bit. So a few takedowns, lots of ground and pound, a potential submission attempt or a TKO later in the second or third round. It's not going to outscore Colby Covington, I don't think. With Kazmat Chimaev, I don't know. Maybe Chimaev just finishes him quick. He doesn't quite get it. I don't know. The likelihood, I 100% agree. The likelihood's low. But the ownership would be if Chimaev did pull off that, if he did get upset, or if Woodley did punch out Colby Covington. Covington is not going to score anything. He got punched out in the first round. Chimaev didn't score anything. He got submitted in the first round. Laramie could be that better option flying under the radar. But no, I do agree with you. He'll be lower scoring than those
And then
other
Baeza's
two
going to
guys.
probably get slid into the mix there.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want none of that because Jeremiah Wells is a durable enough guy, and because I think he's going to try to grapple and use his more maybe physicality to slow this one down. I wouldn't want no exposure on Baeza. Same thing with Tyson Nam. Tyson Nam's the kind of guy you would want because holy shit, man. This guy
last
cracks.
week
And he's got big
I think
power.
we were interested. He was 70. It was flipped. I think he was 7,600.
And he's got big power. Maybe he pulls it off. But now you look at him a spot. He's $8,600. And the one thing with Tyson Nam is that he's another Tyron Woodley in the sense that he knows he has that power. And he relies on it just a little bit too much. Doesn't really let his hands go enough. So could he knock out Jerome Rivera? Yeah, absolutely. But more likely he just, beats this guy in the striking, stuffs his takedowns, and eventually takes him into later waters and maybe ends up winning a decision. So at $8,600, I'm going to be running to Tyson Nam. Although I see a lot of love for him online. And yeah, that's about it. I had Meerschaert Bektic, but whatever. He was like a 5-1 favorite. And fight got
He needs a
scrapped.
win, so
They
it's kind
could-
of
and I think
smart
they were
for
gonna
him
do
to
that.
pull out. Like, I don't think he's taking any late notice replacements here. Do you?
You know what? The other guy's cornerman tested positive, and you would think that they're going to find him a replacement because they've been finding replacements.
The
But
bottom half of this card. Apologies for me just being out of sorts.
Dude, there's just so much.
We've been really busy, and I didn't have time to. As we start talking through this, I'm like, I can't even bullshit my way through the bottom of this
14
card,
fights,
to be
man.
perfectly honest. Lots of shows coming out on the Pat Mayo Experience every single day, multiples every single day. So it's been, with football, and there's a U.S. Open in golf. I didn't have time to dig into a bunch of these prelims. I'm gonna look into some of the fights, but yeah, it's a nice main card for a free TV card, but those prelims this week just really are falling off of a cliff. In my opinion, but there's a whole bunch of people around. They're all looking for fights. They're going back over.
I'll watch anything. It doesn't
They're
matter.
going back to Fight Island, so it kind of makes sense. Get everybody their job before they're gone for like 5-6 weeks. So, any final closing remarks from you?
The PRP is only going to have, I believe, 2 underdogs, but we're going Colby Covington, Nico Price, Kazmat Chimaev. Definitely, he's one of the locks for us. I'm going to take Ryan Spann. He's going to be the first underdog. Ronda Markos is going to be the second underdog. Darren Stewart's going to be the third underdog. We're going to go with Silva. We're going to go with David Dvorak. He's even money. I'm going to take Jesse Rose Clark. I'm going to take Journey Newson. We're going to take Andre Ewell by decision, especially. That fight goes to decision regardless who wins. TJ Laramie. I'm going to take Tyson Nam, and I'm going to go with Miguel Baeza. Don't really love that spot. He's going to be a big favorite. But, that's about it, unless you want me to tell you a joke.
I want to hear a joke. Yeah, sure.
Want to hear a joke?
Yep.
Okay. You're saying this is a joke of a card. We might as well finish
The bottom half is.
Yeah, the main card's tight. If they try to get
Main
me to
card
pay
is
for the main card,
main
I'd
card is
consider it,
great, but
it
it's
does.
just the undercard is just like fight after fight that I just don't care about.
It's all about contracts, man. Think about it. They're like, man, TV contracts. We need to fill these fights. And then beyond that, it's like, no, we have these contracts guaranteeing these guys 3 fights a year. And
I
it's
think
like, oh,
I reached
Toss
UFC.
them on the wall.
I reached UFC burnout right there. Apologies to people listening, but I reached burnout right around the Darren Stewart fight. We've been doing
Looking
cards.
at it-
We've been
looking
doing
at
this
it, I can
show
see
every
why.
single week for it seems like an eternity now.
6 years.
Well, I know, but especially like since
Well, now we got consecutive weeks. You don't really get a break. Back in the day, you used to get like a week or two off. here
yeah,
and there.
and they would
No rest for the wicked.
nope. Oh, what's the joke?
Okay, guy walks into a doctor's office, walks over, and doctor, I need help. Something's wrong. I got and the doctor says, "Holy shit! Okay, yeah, no problem. We'll look you over." Takes the guy, and they run some scans on him. So then he comes back to the guy, and the guy says, "What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me, doctor?" He says, "We ran some scans on you, man. I gotta say, you have got the biggest penis anybody in this office has ever seen. Like, holy shit, man." Anyways, as it turns out, this thing just takes so much blood to physically operate. It's just taken away from your brain. You're not getting enough blood going to your brain. That's just what's causing these, like, you to have this stutter and you to kind of be off. So it's, we're gonna put you into surgery, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove a chunk of it, but you're still gonna have average. Still gonna have average just like everybody else. Totally fine. No worries. We're just gonna remove the rest of it. So because yeah, do it. So they go through the surgery. Guy's fine. Guy leaves. No problem. 2 weeks later, guy walks in the doctor's office. He says, "Doc, listen, man, I got to tell you, man. I mean, listen, it's good being able to talk again. I'm feeling good in that regard. Like, life's kind of gone bad. But here's the thing, man. You told me I was going to be average. I can't pick up a chick anymore, man. Average is a lie. These girls don't want average. I'm having no luck, man. Like, fuck it, dude. Put it back on. I'll just deal with the list, man. Put it back on." And the doctor says to him, "Go fuck yourself."
I missed it.
Anyway,
that's it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you to producer Matt Best for all the sweet cuts behind the glass. And thank you to Cody Saftic for literally carrying this show. For Cody and Matt, I am Paul saying goodbye and good luck.
Mayo Experience! Experience!